check, check. Microphone check, 1 2 1 2. Check, check. It's the mood. I don't really got vibes today. It's the mood, the mode that I'm in. By the tone, mannerisms of Nip. We're just gonna roll with it. I do, before I get into everything today, I want to give a shout out to my sister and her boyfriend for having their new baby Adonis. He's a beautiful, beautiful baby. Today remember a while back I was thinking about doing an episode called Bitter. And it was for me to get all my bitterness out and stuff like that. The way that I feel, my emotions, things like that. I changed my mind. And then now I'm back at it where I'm in this mode. And I just want to kind of get into it. So first and foremost, I do want to approach this with the parenthood aspect, since I am Mr. Dad, and that's what I'm here for, to do things from a parent perspective. And a lot of the times what I've been running into lately is people saying that they can't do certain things for the kids, or they just can't get through because either money, loneliness, being hurt, all the excuses in the world. And I say they're excuses because at the end of the day, that's what they are if you're not looking to take care of your kid. So,
hi, Daddy.
I remember last week I was talking to my mom on the last episode I did, and she was talking about doing what she had to do for her kids. Mind you, that's 4 of us. And she was just trying to make it through the best she could. And that's one of the things that I learned from, and how I approach a lot of things is like, I just got to get this done regardless. Like, it don't matter. So, just to give y'all some background, the reason why I say money, being lonely, being hurt don't matter is because I was in a situation 2 years ago when I had my heart surgery, and leading up to that, I had a lot of things going on medically with me. Me being weak, me not being able to function, me worried about my life and my health. See, a lot of the times we get caught up in money and the little small things, like I'm not doing certain stuff, the life that I'm living is not the best, and shit like that. But I'm telling you, like, from my perspective, what ended up happening with me was I got humbled. I was living my life kind of like maybe a little too freely. And as I was pushing through and getting stuff done, this hit me. So let's rewind to when it first started. So 2015, I want to say a little bit after Thanksgiving, I started to feel weak. And at that time, I was training. I was doing all this shit for the Sheriff's Academy. I was working a job. I was doing Lyft, and I was working my job, of course. And I was taking care of kids. And I started to feel weak. Like, every day I was training, like, my body was getting stronger, but for some reason I couldn't get over the hill. There was always this wall that I kept hitting daily, and I didn't understand why. And a little bit after that, I think January came around. No. December rolled around, and I went to the doctor, the EKG. It was off a little bit. January comes around, I get Bell's palsy. Mind you, this whole time I am also going through what I felt was a really bad breakup at the time with my son's mom after being engaged and things like that. So I get the Bell's palsy. I get another EKG. Well, actually, my dentist, she sends me to uh, urgent care. And then she's like, yo, half your fasciation, you might want to get things. The urgent care doctor's like, yo, let's do an EKG on you and see. It's like, oh, this is abnormal. It probably is not nothing. Um, let's uh, let's just send you to your primary doctor. Just get this looked at just in case. Primary doctor does it. She's like, yo, you need to go to this cardiologist. It may not be nothing. This whole time people were telling me it may not be nothing, but at this time I'm already freaked out because I know that my body's going through changes. Like I can't breathe sometimes and I can't run and I'm getting weak for no fucking reason or no apparent reason at all. So um, it's funny. I do about 50 million tests with my um, cardiologist, and nothing comes up until I go get my MRI. And when I go get my MRI, um, I have this lady with me, and she's like, "Oh, you'll be fine." You know, the whole optimistic approach that you women have. And I'm like, all right, we make a bet. I'm not going to disclose what the bet was. We made a bet, and she lost. Because about 3 weeks later, I go in, and I'm sitting in a chair. And I remember it like it's yesterday. I'm sitting there. She comes in, and she's like, I just got bad news. She didn't even say it was like good news. She was like, you have a murmur in your heart that's huge, and it's going from your atriums at the top. And she said your blood has been flowing the wrong way for years. Half of your heart is oversized. We need to go in there and fix it. So my world fucking stops because at the, you know, I've grown up broke. I've grown up well, not grown up, but in my young adulthood, I was homeless. I was living on my car for a while. None of that shit had ever amounted to like me being sick because at the time it was like that was the worst thing that could happen ever anyway. Because it was like, okay, well, they always say, oh, you're good as long as you got your health, right? So now I don't have it. Um, she tells me that I get irate in the doctor's office. I have my son there. My son's mom is there, and she's sitting there looking stupid, and I'm sitting there pissed. And the guy comes in with the biller guy, and he's like, "Yeah, like I'm gonna give you all this paperwork so you can give it to your job." And I'm like, "All right, so let me take this to my job or whatever." But instead, I hop in a car. I literally drop them off, and I drive north for 6 hours. I didn't call nobody. I didn't tell nobody nothing. I think I talked to Jay uh, for a hot second, and I was just like, "Yeah, I'm coming up." I remember I called Dale. He didn't answer. So on my way up, he called me back. And he was like, "Oh man, I wish I could have went with you because I remember I sent out like just a mass text to everybody letting them know what happened because I didn't want my family to be like too worried." But I was just like, I don't want anybody to talk to me right now, and I left. And I remember I'm going up the 5 freeway, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck am I doing? And there's a truck on the side of the road, and it's burning like extremely engulfed in flames on the grapevine. And right then I just like, start crying. And I remember I was crying because I was so upset that that had happened to me, that I had been in this predicament to the point that like, and there was nothing I could do about it. So I stay up there for about a day and a half, and I'm like, man, I gotta go. Like, I gotta go back home. I gotta face it. And all the while, I'm just like, okay, let me get back down. Let me do, whatever they want me to do, precautions, whatever. So, of course, now I have a lot of time on my hands. Um, uh, I'm thinking a lot. You think about, I'm gonna die. Like, I remember 4th of July rolled around because I had my surgery in August. 4th of July rolled around, and I just had my son and my daughter, and we were at Marina Del Rey, and they were having a fireworks show. And I remember just staring at it like, this might be my last fireworks show. I went to the beach a few months later, like, this might be my last beach trip. And it just made me, like, gather things differently, like, in life. Because everything else, it meant so much more. Like, just the smallest shit, like waking up and burping my son, or taking my daughter to school, or whatever. And it was like, I don't even need half the shit that I've been working for in my life, because it can just be taken from you in an instant. So I remember the day before my surgery, I had the friends and family reunion, and it was our first one, our second one, first one. It was our first one, and I remember just being there and being surrounded by friends and family, and it was just dope. And I didn't let it show, but like I was scared as shit at that time. And I remember my everybody was down or whatever, but then my cousin just like got up and left, and I remember like how upset I was with him, because it was like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, you came all the way down here just to leave the day before my surgery, missed the friends and family, or maybe, yeah, I think he missed the friends and family reunion, but he came after because he came late. So the fact that he came down anyway, I was gracious of it, but I was very upset after the fact. But only, or mainly, excuse me, because I felt alone. And I remember I had this feeling of being alone for months, probably a year after my surgery. So that happens. Friends and family reunions over. Everyone shows up. Well, all my closest friends show up to the hospital before my surgery. I didn't get to see anybody because they drugged me. They gave me like this cocktail, and like literally the cocktail was like to calm me, but I guess it had me wilding because I was like laughing while I was going into the surgery room, and my daughter and then were like, I was playing with my daughter and stuff like that, and I didn't know what was happening. Everyone told me after, so whatever it gave me was some strong shit. It was so strong. So I have the surgery. It's a success. I come out. I wake up 24 hours later when I was supposed to wake up 7 hours later, and I'm in pain. There's tubes sticking out of me. There's all types of blood tests. They got tubes in my neck. Like, it was just uncomfortable. And that wasn't the worst part. The worst part for me was coming home to, how like they say, like when tragedy strikes, you show like your true friends show, and the people that you really want in your life, or the people that need to be in your life, show up. It's a beautiful thing for those people that show up, but it is a daunting thing for the ones that just disappear on you. And that hurt me. And it only hurt me because I always felt like I was I'm always there regardless. Like, let's say I did someone wrong in any type of way, and I don't think that I ever did anyone that wrong, but people can always count on me. And I was figured that I could always count on people. And that shit just didn't happen. And during this recovery, because it took me about a year to recover, and that's like be able to walk, things like that. Because I remember I went to the park one time, and they were having a Rolling Stones tribute with like another band, and we were walking next to these old ladies, and they were walking so fast it seemed like, but it was only because I couldn't catch my breath. Like I couldn't walk, I couldn't do anything. Like, heart surgery is by far the worst thing ever. Like, you don't know how much you need your heart until something wrong with it. like I swear, like, it controls your breathing, it controls the way that you can move, how much you can move, and it also controls the flow of everything. Like, so that happened, and maybe like 3 weeks in, I ended up having to go back into surgery and get drained because I had fluid in my chest and I couldn't breathe. And you know, I can't explain how much it hurts to drown in your own fluids, but I think that drowning probably is the worst death that anyone could have. Because when I couldn't breathe because there was so much fluid inside my body internally, and I literally was gasping for air all the time, that was fucked up. And I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Probably. I don't know. Depending on who my worst enemy was, I would probably want them to choke on there. Anyways, moving on. So, I go back home then. By the time I get back out for the second time, I have to move. My sister was moving out of her place, and I was living with her at the time. So I ended up going up north. And while I'm up north, you know, I'm healing. I'm going through things emotionally and spiritually. Like, when you're down at every, like, there was no bright spot in my life. There was like, I would usually say it was my kids. There was no kids. They weren't around me. I couldn't lift my son. I couldn't drive. I couldn't do shit. So I was 500 miles away, I think, 300 to 500 and some miles or something like that away from home. There was, I was broke. Like when I say broke, I mean, literally checks from my job were $0, and I was getting like a check for $1,000, which didn't even cover my bills. I was, you know, and the only bright spot is that I had friends that was like, yo, here, let me help you out, things like that. And I was very appreciative of that. And I still am until this day. It's just weird. It's just weird to, you know, how everything just came like full circle. And I remember I just continually apologized about everything. And I remember one day I was at my homeboy Drew's house. His mom and dad let me stay with them for a while before I went up to San Jose. Because when I was originally going at the end of August when my sister was moving out of her place, but because of the new surgery, I couldn't drive again for another month. So I stayed in Althena at my friend's mom and dad house for a while. And they held me up for a minute. And I remember he was like, you have to stop apologizing for something that's about you. And it was like, I had never had to depend on anyone in my adult life, because I had made sure that I was going to set myself up so that I wouldn't have to depend on anyone. I could do my own thing. I'll be able to move the way that I wanted to move, and no one could tell me anything because it was my way. And I just remember apologizing and him just being like, "Yo, you don't apologize for something that's happening to you. Just do something better later on when you get out of it." And that's why I love the fact that Ned has always been my mentor, because he could always put things in perspective when I was at my least. There was so many people that stepped up, but at that time, you could only think about the people that were doing you wrong. And because you only have time to yourself to think, if you're in the house 24 hours a day and all you're doing is thinking, you think about the worst shit and you become trapped in this mental prison. And that's where I was for days. Like, if you was to talk to my homeboy Dale, like I used to talk to him every day about the same shit. And I know he was tired of hearing about it. Shout out to you, Dale, for even sitting there and listening to me babble over and over like an old person about the same shit every day. Shout out to you, because I would have told you to shut the fuck up. But I know that there's a reason why I went through that stuff, and it did make me stronger at the end. It also made my bond with certain friends a lot stronger as well. And there's a lot of people that I will never forget for looking out for me, regardless of what transpired, because I did a lot of people wrong trying to get myself out of my depression. And because it was really dark and there was nothing I could think about outside of negativity. There was nothing that I could do to combat the shit that I was going through, because I couldn't even look at it optimistically anymore. I lost a huge piece of myself during that time, and it took me 3 years to gain it back. And I don't, you can't really apologize for doing people wrong after it's already done, because they don't want to hear that shit. But I do want to say that that wasn't me. That wasn't the guy that I actually am. And hopefully one day people can meet, because I've always been a fun-loving guy, but during that time I was not. And it was really hard for me to recover. And it's taken me until now to realize that when you go through things, like, I can't apologize for it just because it was some shit that I was going through, and I think that everyone gets into a depressive state, and the only thing sometimes that can get you out of it is yourself. I for a fact know that because I was so fucked up, like, and in a deep dark place, like, I can see how when people do things out of spite or out of depression, I can see how that can trickle down. Like, it took a lot of me to not do dumb shit during that time. Like, I remember I was at this chick's house. I was picking her up, and I weak as hell in the car, and her cousin tried to come around and talk tough to me. And, like, I was like, oh, I can't, sitting there like, oh, I can't fight him, because if he hits me in my chest, I'm gonna die or something. So, like, it took everything for me not to shoot him. And those are the type of things that goes through your mind. Like, when they say, oh, do you ever think about killing somebody? Like, yes, I do. I've thought about killing people on numerous occasions, a lot during that time. And now that I'm in a lighter space, and I'm like, oh, okay, like, nothing matters now. A lot of the shit that used to matter to me doesn't. Like, I don't care as much about, like, money. Of course, I still have to provide for my children and things like that, but it's not as much as a big deal. I still have the same goals, but they're not life or death, because I know what life or death feels like. The struggle, the pain, the suffering, the people dodging out of your life. Like, you gotta really distance yourself. And even during that time, I was still like, oh no, like, I still got your back. It was dumb because I wasn't taking care of me. I remember my episode with exes and spouses with my homeboy Jay, and he was talking about how he, like, after he breaks up, he just leaves and works on himself. And that was something that I probably should have done, but it didn't happen that way. I was still, like, so caught up with what everybody else was doing. In my feelings, I was drinking. I was drinking for some months. I was light skinned as hell. I have always been a man of integrity, and I have always stuck to my morals and to my guns as much as I can. I've probably made one huge mistake in my life that I broke my integrity, my own self integrity, like something that I hold, my standards that I hold myself to, and that's going to the grave with me. I'm not telling nobody. Y'all can go ahead. Even if I'm tortured, I'm just gonna die. But outside of that, like, I've always been that guy. That guy to hold myself to a standard and live by it. And I think from this point on, I just have to continue to be me. I have to continue to build. I have to continue to get right and put my kids in a better light. Because I know that when I was gone, there was a lot of things that were happening that I didn't agree with, especially with with my daughter and my son. That shit just wouldn't have flew if I was around. Things like that. So it made me understand the importance of me being around even more. Like, a lot of people are like, oh man, you still pushing? Like, hell yeah. Like, when I wasn't around, y'all could have seen the shit that was going on. So now the bounce back is so much better, and it's so true when people talk about your minor setbacks setting you up for major comebacks. Like, even when you hit rock bottom, like, the only way is up. And I learned that shit the hard way, because I thought rock bottom was it, and then I went and got me a spike axe and started digging into the rock, put myself further down. And once I started to look up again, it all worked out great for me again. So I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode, because it was hard for me on this one. And I got to get out here and raise these kids.